Hello, friends. Well, it was just a matter of time before I would add tatting to my card making. My name is Kay Jett. I am an independent Stampin' UP demonstrator from East Central Indiana. I am also a well-known tatting designer, teacher, and author. I will teach you some basic needle tatting techniques. For more information, check out the Tatting Corner website. That'll be listed below in the video, below the video. Lisa is known as the Tatting Enabler, and she can answer a lot of your questions. Today's card again features the online exclusive A Little Latte DSP, the Latte Love stamps and dies, and the Ice Cream Swirl stamps and dies. When I saw this DSP, I noticed some of the coffee cups did not have swirls in them like the others. So I felt that was a perfect place to put a bit of tatting. So here are your supplies. We will need a card base of 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. A piece of the designer series paper, 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. A strip of the designer series paper, 3/4 of an inch by 4 inches. Basic white, 4 inches by 5 1/4 of an inch. This is for the inside. This strip is also for the inside. You'll need a scrap for stamping and die cutting. You'll need a scrap of the Calypso Coral because I utilized a couple of the coffee rims and then put a piece of Calypso Coral behind it to make a plate for the donuts. And then we'll need about 5 coffees, or four coffee cups, 2 for the card and 2 for the plate. And we can cut those out with the dies from Latte Love. So for the needle tatting, I am using supplies that should be readily available to you. I am using the Baker's Twine Essentials pack, and I'm using the white for the swirl. And I cut off about 24 inches off of the twine. And then I'm using milliner's needles. I like using milliner's needles because they're nice and long. They're the same diameter from the shaft of the needle clear through the eye of the needle, so they don't get thick. It'll be easier to take your double stitches off of the needle. One problem is it is sharp, so please be careful while you're trying out this technique. A normal needle tatting needle is much longer, and it is also blunt, so you don't hurt yourself while you're doing your needle tatting. So let me sit down here, and I will give you a quick demonstration so that you too can create this homemade swirl using a bit of tatting. This swirl is made with just 1 ring of needle tatting, and I've added 6 picots to the ring. The picots are the little bits of thread that stick out beyond the double stitches. It makes the tatting look lacy, and it also allows us to join one ring to another. Now this is just 1 ring, so we don't have to worry about joins. But to do this technique, you would hold your needle in your left hand. It's threaded through the eye of the needle, and then you would grab the other end and bring it up, parallel to your needle. So we have 1 thread end here going through the eye of the needle, one thread end here that I'm grabbing with my right hand. Now to do a double stitch, which is the basic stitch for needle tatting or for any tatting, I would grab the thread that's closest to the tip of the needle, and I would put my left pointer finger up to wrap the thread around. The first half of the stitch, I want to wrap the thread around the left side of my finger, and then take the needle up the inside of my finger from the base to the tip, being careful not to pierce myself, and then slide that half stitch onto my needle, and then bring it down so I can hang on to it with my right hand. The second half of the double stitch, I would wrap the thread around my left pointer finger the opposite direction. So I would go around the right side of my finger, and then moving the needle up from the base of my left finger to the tip along the back side of my finger, and then slide that off. And I have what's called one double stitch. To get that to, and basically it looks like a pair of pants with a waistband and two legs that go around the needle. So I want to put in a picot. A picot is just a space left between the double stitches. So I will do one more double stitch around the right side of around the left side of my left finger, move the tip of the needle up from the base to the tip of my finger. And then I want to leave about a half of an inch space. I'm holding that first half of the double stitch with my right pointer finger. Then I would do the second half of the stitch, wrap it around the right side of my left finger, move the needle up from the base to the tip along the back side of my left finger, slide that part of the stitch off, and that creates double stitch number 2. When I slide double stitch number 2 up to meet the first double stitch, that's when I get my picot. So basically I've left the space, and then when I slide the 2 double stitches up together, we get a picot. I'm going to do a third double stitch around the left side of my left finger, up from the base to the tip. I want to pull that one in to meet the previous double stitch. And then the second half is wrapped around the right side of my left finger, move the tip of my needle up from the base to the tip of my left finger along the back side, and there's 2. So far I put in 1 double stitch, I've left a picot space, and I put in 2 double stitches. So I'm going to leave 1 more picot space, and I have to do that by making another double stitch. I want to leave about the same amount of space as I did before. Up the back side to put the second half stitch in. And then I can slide that picot up to meet, slide that double stitch up to meet with the others. I'll put 1 more double stitch in. Sliding it up to meet the previous double stitch. And then I'll put in my third picot. We're going to leave another picot. second half, first half, second half. I now have 4 picots so far. I want a total of 6. So 1 more picot. And second half of the double stitch. Slide it up. First half of the double stitch. Second half of the double stitch. And our last picot made with 1 double stitch. So I now have all my double stitches plus 6 picots, and now I'm ready to close the ring. And to close the ring, I want to hang on to all my double stitches if I can, and then merely pull the needle through all the double stitches that I made on the needle. And you may need a needle grabber to do this, because I like to pull my double stitches up pretty nice and tight. Need something to hang on to the needle in order to pull it through all my double stitches. As I pull the thread through the double stitches, I want to make sure that my picots are on the outside of my ring. And then I continue to pull my needle through and the excess thread. And I end up with my tatted ring made with 6 picots, so I can add a swirl to a cup of coffee. Now we can get down to making the card. So I will set my tatted ring aside. And first off, I'm going to want to stamp a couple of donuts that can be found in the ice cream swirl stamp set. The ice cream swirl stamp set is found in the mini catalog. And I'm going to use pecan pie for that. I also have a sentiment for the front of the card. I'm going to do that also in the pecan pie. And then for the inside of the card, I used Hope Your Day is Sweet from the ice cream swirl set. And so I will pull the inside of my card, basic white for the inside of my card out, and we'll get that stamped as well. Great. That finishes our stamping for this card. And then I'm going to take the light pecan pie and color in parts of the donut so it looks like they've got icing, strips of white icing on the front. Okay, so the coloring is done. And let's get some die cutting. So this is the die for the donuts. And this comes in the ice cream swirl die set that goes along with the stamp set. And I'm going to tape that on with a bit of Post-it note tape. And we can cut out some of our coffee cups here. There is a die that comes in the Latte Love that matches these coffee cups that are on the DSP. Yes, and then from the Stylish Shapes, I'm using one of the banner dies for our front sentiment. Oh, and this is one of the coffee cups I'm going to cut the center out of. So there is a die in the Latte Love set that will do that. So you can cut out centers for different coffee cups you want to make. So I can cut those both out at the same time. That's plate 1. And my plate 2. And then we can put some of the things we want to cut. And I'm going to have to get rid of my grid paper because it's sliding all over the place. There. So there's one of our rims for the plate. We'll set up one more. Yeah. There's one of the donuts. There's our second donut. And our second plate rim. Going to get my Calypso coral out here for cutting the base of my plate. And then we'll cut out a couple of coffee cups for the card front. This coffee cup will put our tatted piece on. Here's our second coffee cup. And then I have to run our sentiment through. And there's that. That finishes up all our cutting. Okay. So to make our plate, I'm going to cut off the handle from the 2 coffee cup rims that we cut off. And then I'm going to glue one on top of the other just to make it have a little bit thicker rim. And then we will glue those two pieces together and glue it to the bit of Calypso coral. And that will make our plate. And then I'll trim off the handle from the Calypso coral as well. Okay. Now we need to affix our donuts to the plate. One I'll just glue straight to the plate. And then one I'll put a dimensional on one side so it looks like it's hiked up a little bit. And I'll do that here. And then I'll put a little glue on the other side to help hold the other side down. So there's our plate. Now we can work on the card. I decorated the card using some of the little bitty coffee cups and spoons designer series paper. We'll decorate the inside layer with that. Leave about 1/8 of an inch reveal and then trim off the two ends so they match up. And then we can glue this to the inside of our card. And then on the front of the card, I'm going to glue down some of the plaid designer series paper. I'll put this cup up at the top here. And then our plate of donuts. And then I'll put this card down here. I want to add a small bit of the ribbon. And I'll add that with some glue dots. And we'll put up the sentiment with a couple of dimensionals. And I'm not going to put the dimensionals in the middle because it has to fit across the ribbon, and the ribbon's a bit on the thick side. And then we'll glue the coffee cups down. Glue my plate down. And this can be glued down. And then the last thing we do, I'm going to trim off a little bit of this thread from my tatted motif. I'm going to tie a double knot with my 2 thread ends. And I want to bring those to the back side of my tatting. And then I'll get my silicone mat and I'm going to glue my 2 thread ends to the back of the tatting itself. That way I can trim them off fairly close. There. And then I'll add some more glue to the back of our coffee swirl, our tatted coffee swirl, and just glue that down to my cup. I remember seeing stationery that my mother had. I was around 10, and it had tatted motifs on it. And so card making just naturally lends itself to including tatting to it. So I hope I've managed to pique your interest, and hopefully you'll want to give tatting a try as well. I realize it's another thing, but it's fairly inexpensive to get into. And hope you enjoyed this card. Hope you enjoyed your lesson. Remember to be creative every day, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.